Hello everybody, welcome back to the 5th video in the series, and in this video we're going to make the May tag. So let me take you through what we need for that. 2 inks for this one, Victorian Velvet and Vintage Photo. Stickles I've used are Platinum, Cinnamon and Cotton Candy. I've got the 2 tags, 2 eyelets, my letters. I've got a butterfly cut out of the Movers and Shapers butterfly set. I've got a sentiment that I've stamped using one of the Tim Holtz Visual Artistry stamps, 2 bits of seam binding, scrap of card, embossing ink and the UT. And the punches, I've just got a 1.6 mini punch or midi punch, just a tiny flower, and then the Martha Stewart butterfly punch. Really nice punch. This one came with some stamps with a butterfly as well. And glossy accents and my mister. And then just one of my, this is a quilling tool, but the ball tool for just curling the flowers up. So let's move all of that out of the way and get started. Okay, so first of all I'm going to colour the letters. I didn't put any stickles on these letters, but we'll cover them and ink them first, and they were just inked in Vintage Photo. That's one. I think out of all of the tags this one's the prettiest. I really liked it when it was done. And was really just messing about when I made them all. And just experimenting really with things that I've had for quite a while but haven't necessarily used or put all together. So those are the little letters done. Let's move those out of the way. And now on the tag that hasn't got the double-sided strips on the back, starting with the Victorian Velvet, I'm just going to put it flat on the mat and just start working in from the edge. I think this is a really, really pretty ink. So let's just go all the way around. Keep going. So I'm pressing quite hard because I want it to be quite pink around the edges. And then I'm just going to sort of very lightly go up, across the middle, just to give a sort of pink tint. And then I'm going to take my Vintage Photo ink, pick the tag up, and then work in from the edges, and that just puts a really nice line around the edge just to frame the colour, and also it gets rid of those white edges of the tag that you know by now I'm completely obsessed with. And then I'm going to turn it over and just do the same just around the edges. On the other side. Of course you won't see this, but again it just gets rid of that cream cut edge when the 2 tags are stuck together. So that's that one coloured, and while I'm using the Vintage Photo I'm just going to cover or colour the eyelets that we're going to put on. So there's one. Oh, he's a bit cut. And number 2. And also the sentiment, that one was coloured with the pink ink all the way around. Again, quite heavy at the edges, lighter towards the centre. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of Vintage Photo just up in the middle, but only a tiny bit. And then this sentiment I stamped out onto the card and then just trimmed it round with the scissors and then ticket punched the corners. So just ink it until you've got it how you want it. And then let's just move those out of the way. We'll do this and then it can dry. I'm just going to put round the edge the platinum stickles. Let's shake it and get it to come out. Just a very fine line. I love this stickles. I think this is probably my favourite of them all. And then this can be drying. So just freehand, but that just puts a little bit of sparkle on there. I don't know if you can see. So let's just move that out of the way. While I'm thinking about it, we'll also ink the butterflies because they're sparkled as well. I forgot about them. So they were covered, the big one I covered quite heavily in the pink ink. Working it around the edges, because I wanted this one to be darker than the 2 smaller ones. And then I went around those edges with the Vintage Photo. Didn't do any stamping on these. And then I'm going to fold that butterfly up either side of his body, so you get a flat bit there. And then with the Vintage Photo I'm just going to lightly ink the back. This is not going to be stuck flat to the tag. Be careful, those end bits are a bit delicate. So he's done. And then the little butterflies I'm just going to colour really lightly with the pink ink pad. Both sides. One done. And the other one done. And then I'm going to fold them again either side of the body. It's a bit fiddly. And then with my Vintage Photo ink, I'm just going to colour the body bit, just very carefully, if you can see that. And then I'm going to do the same on this one. So fold the wings down either side of the body, hold them together, should do it up here, and then just ink the body. Like that. Pop those down. And then they've all got the cotton candy stickles on, so I'm just going to do that now. Put it on all of them, and the big one as well. And just work that over the wings, and then that can be drying while we're doing everything else. So one large butterfly, and two, let's just do that one. Little butterflies. Now the next thing to do, now we've got all the little bits covered, is to stamp the tag. And to do that I'm going to use the archival ink, the coffee, that I've used all the way through this series. And one of the stamps from this visual artistry collection, this is one of the Tim Holtz stamp sets, and I'm going to use this one with the bulrushes on. So I've mounted it already on my acrylic block. I'm just going to cover it in ink, and I'm just going to stamp just randomly up the side of the tag, and then I'm going to move it across, stamp down there in that space, and then I'm just going to stamp a little bit across the bottom there, just to give that sort of shadowy look of the bulrushes being in the distance. And now the tag's ready to put the UT on, so I'm going to put 2 layers, and then I will be back. You know how to put it on now if you've been watching the series, so I'm going to do that and then come back once that's done, and then we'll mount all the bits onto the tag. I've put the first layer on. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I've gone back over the UT with the Victorian Velvet ink and just re-inked where the UT hasn't melted onto the card, and I really like that effect. It gives that sort of marbled effect. And now I'm going to add the second layer of UT over the top. And here it is, the finished tag, all heavily embossed. I've come quite a way in with the embossing enamel on this one. I really like working with it. If you, and I'm sure you found this out, but if you move your heat gun so that it faces the edge, it blows the embossing enamel towards the edge and gives a really nice raised finish. So there it is, all ready now for us to start to put the bits and pieces on. So I'm going to put double-sided tape on the back of the sentiment and stick that down first. So I've just got a strip I'm going to stick on the back. And that one goes down towards that bottom corner. And then, oh, we haven't done the flowers. Okay, let's just do the flowers then. Flowers I covered in the Victorian Velvet on both sides. Can't believe I didn't do these. One. Two. Up again. Whoops, it's alive. And then I'm just going to edge them on one side with the brown, the vintage photo. Oops. As the inks dry into the paper, they do change colour a little bit and go more sort of subtle. Okay, so let's just curve the flowers. This is my quilling tool, but it's got a nice ball end to it, and I'm just working that into each of the petals just to curve them up. And then I press down in the middle, and that just curves everything up, and it just lifts them. So curve each petal. You do have to press quite hard, hurt your hand. 2, 3. You could do this in a piece of foam actually. Let's just try it. This is a clean piece of foam, it's just been stained with ink. Does that work? Yeah, that works as well. If you don't want to do it on your hand, then that really has hurt my hand. Anyway, we're going to stick those down. I'm just going to use my glossy accents to stick those just randomly over the top of the bulrushes. So there's one, but not in a straight line, otherwise they look too regimented. So slightly offset. I'm just going to use my tool just to press the centres down, make sure that they have actually stuck and that the glue spreads underneath them. And then we're going to stick the butterflies on. So that's the flowers. So our little butterflies, let's do the tiny ones first. Just going to put a little bit of vintage photo ink just down the edge of their wings. And again, I'm going to put glossy accents on and stick them down. So I'm just going to fold him up and stick him down there. And then, where shall I put the other one? Just here, I think. So fold his wings up and just press him down onto the glue. So that's the two little ones on, and then the big one I'm going to stick over here. Oh no, we've got to put the words on. Let's just place them where I want them to go. So it's going to go in the middle there, and there, and there. Something to move. Now I can put the butterfly on. I know where he's going to go. So he's going to go here. So I'm going to put glossy accents on the back of him and press him down. And then just move him about. So that's all that's stuck down. Now I'm just going to stick the ring on around here, the whole reinforcer. And then I've got some cinnamon stickles to add. There it is. Let's just see if they come out. Oh yeah, right. Cinnamon stickles just in the middle of the little flowers, just for their centres. And then, let me turn him round, the centre of the butterfly. So I'm starting and pressing just to make his head, and then just going to pull down and press lightly and tail off to form his body. And then from the top of his head, or her head, I'm just going to put two very tiny lines of stickles. Don't know if you can see that, just for the butterfly antennae. And then all we've got to do is stick the letters down and put the seam binding on. So let's pull these off. And stick the M on first, just there. And the A. And Y. This tag reminded me of the dusky evenings once we start to get really nice sunsets over here, and the evenings start to get warmer and it gets dusky and shadowy. That was my sort of thought process behind those colours. So there it is. I've already inked the back. If you're watching along, you know that I like to add a back tag, or a back to the tag. So I've inked it both sides just to get rid of those cream edges, and now I'm desperately trying to pull. I don't know where my knife's gone, so I'm just pulling the backing tape off. Not very successfully. And then we'll stick them together and put the eyelet on the back of this piece. Okay, put that down. Line them up. I like to line them up starting at the top. I think that's it. Just run down the edges. Stick the two pieces together. That's down the middle. And then that just finishes the tag off, and it flattens it as well. Stops it from curling up. And then the vintage seam binding, I'm just going to spritz with a bit of water. Let's move the tag. Scrunch it up, and then ink it directly with the ink pad. And this is making a right mess. This is my vintage tea ink pad. No, it's not. It's my vintage photo ink pad. Blobbing. That's really not good. Actually, it might look quite effective when it's dry, or it might not, so I'm going to give it a whirl. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to use the old paper colour, I think. It's all looking a bit messy, isn't it? Anyway, let me go off and dry it, and let's see what happens. So here it is, all done and scrumpled. Actually, I was quite pleased with how that came out. The little blobby bits off the ink pad came off. So I'm going to put them together and just poke them through. Did I stick the eyelet on the back? No. I'm losing the plot. So before I poke the seam binding through, let's put that eyelet on. Now we can put the seam binding through. So I've added the seam binding and just stuck it down where I wanted it to sit, just making sure that the butterflies lift up over it and that you can see them, and that's it, apart from the glossy accents on the letters if you're putting them on or putting it on. I am, so let me just do that. And the white. And then that will dry nicely. So there it is, one very pretty May tag. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you back in the next video for June tag. Thanks for watching.